Welcome to Serves You Right. This is Andrew, and I'm glad you can make it. If you are a server, a bartender, back of house warrior, this is the spot for you. Follow me as we try to work out and solve one fundamental question: whether or not you can truly be happy working in the restaurant industry. With everything involved in working in service, the alcohol, the late nights, low wages, angry guests, restaurants and bars offer a very strange blend of challenge and opportunity, let's say. They do also serve a very large and underserved population in the US. So I'm trying to answer these questions. Are they flawed and ugly in some ways? Well, yeah, but the service industry also does serve a deep and fundamental need. That drive for a fast, flexible work environment, the thrill of quick money, and, let's be honest, the appeal of the slightly dangerous for some. Again, my name's Andrew, and I've worked in restaurants for about 20 years. I've done everything from dishwashing all the way to being a general manager, and a little bit of everything in between. So this is my record of what I've learned and what's interesting to me. Follow along and see what we make of it all. Thanks for listening. Let's do it. Today, we get to talk to Natalie Bovis of the Liquid Muse. So, Natalie Bovis and I go back for years. We've bartended together. At one point, I actually flew out to California and helped her move back to New Mexico. So, very special episode today. Natalie Bovis, the founder of the Liquid Muse. She founded the Liquid Muse in 2006 and has done just way too many things to recount. In the show notes, I actually do have a link to her About page, and you will see why I did not want to make this a 25-minute introduction. Some of the big things we do talk about: she is a prolific cocktail author and has begun to branch out, and she has a new book about cat deities. Super cool. I highly recommend everyone goes and gets that. We also get to talk a lot about Santa Fe's and I guess now New Mexico's Cocktails and Culture Festival, since she tells me that it has expanded to cities all over New Mexico, and her upcoming Taco Wars, one of the most fun events I've ever been to. So I'm really blown away by all the things that Natalie does, how deep she's been in the mixology community, how much she focuses on wellness and balance. And this was just really a very special episode for me. So I hope you get as much out of it as I did. And without further ado, Natalie Bovis. Yeah. So what have you been up to? You know, I haven't talked to you in probably 8 years until recently. So.
Well, my life is very different, I think, post-pandemic, like a lot of people, that shook a lot of things up. Prior to the pandemic, I was very ambitious about building my festival. And as you know, you were there from the beginning when I launched my festival 10 years ago this year. I was very excited about building the Cocktails and Culture Festival, which was the first mixology festival in New Mexico. Still is the only really mixology culinary festival in New Mexico. In my 2019, it had grown pretty big. Taco Wars had like 22 chefs and, huge speakers such as Del DeGroff and Tony Abuganim, and all these brand ambassadors were flying in from all over the country and teaching seminars. And it was really exciting, and I was very proud, and I had all these big ideas. And then the pandemic came along and just slashed it like it did for everybody in the world. And then I kind of loved the pandemic in the sense that I stopped traveling so much for work, and I was home. I kind of took everything down a notch. I did a lot of introspection. I joined this online Zoom group of people doing The Artist Way, which is a book I had done back in the 90s when it first came out. The Artist Way is like a really great tool for like reigniting your own creativity and connecting with your inner artist. And that was really a gift to have the time to go through this. It's a is it 12 weeks? I think it's 12 weeks or 16 weeks. I think it's 12 weeks. And we would meet on Zoom once a week, and there's like little things you do each week. And, with people who are a woman from Italy and a woman from Canada. And, it's really cool, like all these different people, women from Ireland. And we all kind of came together and did the artist way together. And it was really a gift to have that time to do something other than just cocktails, 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 and events, 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 and trying to sell Ohm and all of the, build a liqueur brand, like with no money, no budget, and just, so it's really, so anyway, but of course that kind of killed my festival too. So, so since then, my life has changed a lot because I've reconnected with my creative self, which is who I really am and who I've always been. I've been a writer since I was little. I wrote my first poem in like first grade. I've always been an actor and a creative person. And so I've been trying to give myself a little space to explore those other parts of myself again. And then, of course, my mom moved in with me during the pandemic because when I was no longer traveling, I realized how unwell she is and how much help she needs. And that all kind of just when I was traveling all the time and working all the time and seeing her, but not spending a lot of quality time really, and not really observing exactly what was going on with her. Um, so during that time, I decided she needed to move in with me, and she has been with me for the last 5 years. And so I'm a full-time caretaker, which is, a new role and takes a lot of time and energy to manage everything for her. She's homebound now and still with me, meaning on the planet with me.
Hmm.
But it's a lot, it's my priorities in life have shifted. So I'm really glad about that actually.
Well, sure. Um, the pandemic being a good thing, I think, is something I've heard from actually a lot of people. That
Oh,
moment to take a reset and stop the what I call the undisciplined pursuit of more, and just think, oh, what am I doing? And am I spending all my time working? Like, what am I doing with my loved ones? And so that's awesome. And tell your mom I said hi.
I will. I know. My mom, I told her I was going to talk with you and she says hi too.
Well,
Yeah.
good.
Yeah, of course. Well, we've known you
Yeah.
for a long time and care about you. So I'll tell
Little
her.
Andrew, your little brother from back in the
And
day.
little Andrew, I know you hate it when I call you little Andrew, but in my mind, you're little Andrew, even though it's like ironic because you're very tall. But I mean it, I don't mean it in a pejorative way. I mean it in like a family, like a big
Hmm.
sisterly way.
Yeah. So we kind of just jumped into talking. When I would describe to someone else what you do, I know author is going to be one of the first things that come up, but you do so many different things with the festival. How do you introduce yourself at cocktail parties, or how would you introduce yourself to the listener?
That's a great question. I ask myself that all the time. What the
Yeah.
hell am I doing? No, I describe myself as a writer and event producer.
Okay.
So, and I'm gonna let my dog in because she's barking and being annoying. Little Lula.
Good.
Come
So
on, Lula.
your next book is going to be Zoom calls with your dog, I think.
With my two dogs and five cats. Yes.
Yes. Oh, we were coming to them. Don't worry.
Um, yeah, I'm a writer and an event producer. I mean, producing, well, I mean, they're both streams of income, sometimes one is more lucrative than the other. And that kind of goes back and forth depending on what the writing project is and what the publisher is willing to pay me for a specific book. Sometimes the events are more lucrative depending on what that is and who the client is and what I'm doing. Yeah, so I founded the Cocktails and Culture Festival in 2015 because I had moved back to Santa Fe, my hometown where I grew up, but I had lived for 20 plus years in LA and Europe and DC as well, but mainly LA. And when I founded the Liquid Muse in 2006, which is crazy to think next year will be 20 years since I started the Liquid Muse, which is just like insanity. But I founded the Liquid Muse as initially as a blog because I wanted to practice my writing and I wanted to do more travel writing and food writing. And I was very interested. I kind of learned about 2006, mixology was starting to become a thing. And I was like, oh, this is so cool. This is like the liquid element of the culinary world. It's the bar side of flavor, and learning this history of spirits and how they're made, and a very culinary approach to cocktails. And so that intrigued me. And so I started the Liquid Muse, just blogging about cocktails. And then the Liquid Muse, I was one of the first women on the internet blogging about alcohol, about specifically about mixology. And that's why the Liquid Muse got very, very popular in those early years. It was one of the leading blogs about mixology at that time. And, I got incredible opportunities, and this is going to lead to the festival because it's kind of like why I wound up doing the festival. But, the opportunities that came to me early on, like I, like as press, I got to go to like Finland and be a judge at the Ice Hotel for a vodka competition, and go to
Super cool.
Poland. It was so amazing. And flying first class. I mean, back in those days in the late 2000s, liquor companies were throwing so much money at the whole mixology thing. And being a woman, they were kind of like, oh, you're a girl, so you can tell girls to buy spirits, because right now girls just buy wine, and we want them to make cocktails. And so, so that's kind of like part of like what liquor companies liked about me, is that I was a woman writing intelligently about cocktails at that time. I don't blog anymore, and that old blog is on Blogspot. Like, wait, might be able to find it. But I mean,
Oh, you still can. I checked before this.
oh, can you?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, and I so I got to do all these cool things. I got to go to Poland and Australia, and all over the place, and London, and be treated like so wonderfully. Um, but what was I going to say? Oh, and then there was a point where the liquor company started hiring me, like, hey, we want to hire you to do blah blah blah, teach a seminar, or we want to hire you to do an event with these people, or we want to hire you to be our spokesperson, which is like the word before brand ambassador, and so suddenly I was like, oh my God, they're going to pay me. I better learn something here, because I feel like I'm just like talking about stuff, but I'm just talking about what I like, and so then I started really studying spirits, and that's where I was like, I need to become an expert in spirits. Like, I need to really know my shit. And so that's where I first went to my very first seminar, which was Tony Abu-Ghanim and Dale DeGroff teaching together. And I just left that seminar. It was about not even a year into the Liquid Muse, and I just went like, punk, like my light bulbs went off, and I was like, this is it. I love this. This is so interesting and cool. And then I really studied and became knowledgeable. And so as I became more knowledgeable, I started going to Tales of the Cocktail every year, which is the big liquor convention. I don't go anymore. I think it's evolved and kind of it's like, it's funny because in the mixology world back then, it was like everybody was like, oh, excited, and everyone was really cool to each other, and everyone's like learning together, and it was like this really exciting time. And as the years went by, now it's just like the like tales I don't even bother with anymore, because it's like the same like 200 people patting each other on the back who all still work for the big liquor companies. And then there's like, some of like the newer bartenders who, are excited to go to seminars. And I definitely think it's worth going to seminars, and Tales is worth it for that. But I've gotten really turned off of all the cliquishness and the circle jerking of what, the top mixology folks, like not all of them, but a lot of them in that world have really turned me off. A lot of bro culture, I found it very misogynistic from the beginning, and even though they keep trying to make it more woman friendly, it's just not. And so, or at least not the way I think it should be.
Mm.
So, all of that to say that, in those early years, I was teaching a lot. I was teaching in Portland Cocktail Week, Tales. I was doing events, doing all these things, part of other people's festivals. So when I moved back to Santa Fe, in around, 2015 is when I finally launched Cocktails and Culture, which is, Taco Wars is the opening party. Then I was bringing in people to teach seminars, because I thought it was important here, small market. So like we're always like 8 years behind the trends. And so people, just weren't that trained yet in mixology. I mean, bartending, we've always had great bartenders. Bartending is hospitality and being nice to people and pouring something in a glass. But mixology is really the study of the spirits and understanding classic cocktails and having that foundation the way a chef trains, to be a chef, learning about food and the classics and what goes together and why and techniques and all of that. And so I thought, that it's such a culinary town, Santa Fe is, that it'd be really great to have a little bit more education here. And why not bring the best in the world? Sad part about it is that I think in the beginning, so many people, especially bartenders here in Santa Fe, had no idea who people like Dale DeGroff were, just because they just hadn't been exposed to that world. And so, I feel like the seminars, I know the seminars were great. I feel like we didn't have as much attendance as I would have liked. And I even offered so many free tickets for bartenders because I just wanted people to come and learn. And I would have liked to have seen a little bit more like enthusiasm from that crowd, but the consumers loved it. And that's what's cool is people here love to eat and drink. And so we'd have, all the people, you saw them every year, a lot of the same faces that came every year and love to eat and drink, and
Oh yeah.
especially love to drink.
The same people I used to serve when I was bartending there.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. Like and thank God for those people. Like that's our culinary community, the consumers of the culinary community. And they're all really fun because they're like all ages and they love all that kind of stuff. So they like the seminars. Anyway, but I'm not really doing seminars per se this year because I was always losing money on them. Taco Wars became very, very popular, taco competition. I do own the federal trademark to Taco Wars, and there is somebody, I won't go into it, but someone in the country who's been using it, and we've been sort of going back and forth in a legal way, which has cost me a bunch of money, which is so stupid because I'm like, I own the federal trademark. Like, why is this still a thing? But that's okay. We're hopefully finding resolution there. And because I'd love for that to not be an issue anymore. It's just ridiculous. But Mind Body Spirits is the yoga element that I added into the festival. Before I started the festival, I started Mind Body Spirits with Dushan Zarek and Patricia Richards, who are two big mixology names, one from Vegas, one from LA. Although Dushan's originally from Serbia, but he was living he's one of the founders of Employees Only, which is like a huge mixology bar.
That's about as big as they get. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a huge deal. So
Mhm.
Dushan is one of the founders of Employees Only, and they have like bars in like Singapore now and all over the world, and they're really important in the evolution of cocktail culture. And so Dushan is also a yoga teacher. And then Patricia Richards, she was running like the bar program at the Wynn back then. Now Mariana Mercer runs it, but and she's amazing. But Patricia was running, I think she was doing the whole program. I can't quite remember, but she was a really talented mixologist in Vegas. And so all three of us were seeing people dying left and right in the world of mixology. A lot of big name mixology people since then have continued to die. It's a very, very unhealthy world. There's a lot of drug abuse, a lot of alcohol abuse, late nights, partying. I alluded to the bro culture of the mixology world, which is like strip clubs and going out with girls and partying all night and then rolling and stinking to booze and then teaching a seminar. That's Tales of the Cocktail used to be a lot like that. Party all night, be crazy all night, roll and stink into booze, teach a seminar. Oh yeah, I'm a rock star. I'm a rock star. And so that culture is extremely toxic on multiple levels, spiritually, psychically, physically, mentally, emotionally. And, needless to say, a lot of people have passed away. So, which is unfortunate because, lifestyle choices can be really, devastating. And so we started Mind Body Spirits in 2014 at Tails. And that year people were making jokes about it. Oh, did you see they're over there doing yoga at Tails? It was like now it's normal. Now lots of people do yoga and go running and do bike rides and do all this like balance stuff. In 2014 they were kind of making jokes about it at the Spirited Awards. And nevertheless, it was pretty popular. Like we brought it back the following year. We got big brands to sponsor it, have them buy in to like hey, you're trying to sell bartenders alcohol. Wouldn't it be good if they like live long, healthy lives and were continued customers for you?
For at
Like even
least 2 or 3 more years. Yes.
like, yeah, if you're gonna just boil it down to like talking corporate language, which is what's our bottom line here, what are we investing in? Well, you're investing in your customers,
Mm.
even if you don't care about these people on the human level, which you should, and maybe they did. You should care about your customers, like, so that's where Mind Body Spirits came from. And so of course when I started the festival here, I launched that here with my favorite yoga teacher, Emily Brandon, who's become a friend over the years as well. And she's totally into the balance thing. Emily is also an actor and a writer and a yoga teacher, and she's in a band, so I really love the many colors of her rainbow. And she's really great at sharing balance without being like preachy or like weird about it. So that is, yeah, 10th year of Mind Body Spirits in the festival too.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
No, that's one of those things that when I was in Santa Fe, I did not understand either. Just to be transparent. But you knew me when I was younger, so
I
you got to
did.
see me unbalanced, which is fine.
Well, you were a wonderful, intelligent person then. The essence of you has not changed, and that's what I've always loved about you is how kind and compassionate you are, and you're really, care about the people in your life, and you've always been that kind of a person. And when people are young, they go off the rails a little bit sometimes. And there's a lot of, I mean, when you're working in the bar and restaurant industry, it's everywhere. And it's kind of like becomes the lifestyle. And that lifestyle is toxic. So I'm really proud of you that you've, evolved your life in all the directions you have.
Pulled back a little bit, yes. I'm not the same person as the so I looked it up because I had to know for this talk, the Devil's Delight cocktail and edible cocktails.
Oh,
So yeah. So yeah, listeners, one of Natalie's books, I submitted a
right.
cocktail recipe called Devil's Delight, and it was whiskey and tequila based, a coffee tequila. If that tells you anything about what I was doing in my off time.
It was a good drink. I mean,
Yeah, yeah,
it's a good recipe. But
yeah,
yeah, that definitely walking on the dark side.
exactly. Um, so yeah, just so we don't stay too long in the industry too. What's going on with your new book? So you've been writing about cats and dogs a lot,
Mhm.
and now you have a cat book that's booze free.
I know,
So
finally. Yeah, so I'm a huge animal lover, and I made the step from mixologist to mythologist is how I like to say it.
Mhm.
So my last two, so I've written 6 cocktail books. My last 2 cocktail books, I was drinking with my dog, the Canine Lovers cocktail book, which is very much doggy trivia. I just like had to do the recipes because it had to be a cocktail book. Um,
Yes.
and I don't mean to sound ungrateful. I mean, I think it's a nice book, but I was really excited about the doggy trivia
It was
part.
like you
And
bring what's the thing where you have the or Mad Libs? It was like blanking with my dog, and you just like, well, I'll put drinking in here. That'll be fine.
well, it was more like I've been wanting to write other books for years. And I talked to my agent who I love. I love, love, love my agent. And I was like, I can write other things other than cocktail books. Like, what about this idea? And what about that idea? And she's like, you're my cocktail book writer. You're really good at that. And I was like, huh. So I'm like, okay, well, how can I make it more interesting then? And so I made it more interesting to me by bringing animals and animal advocacy into it. So Drinking with My Dog, very much a trivia book about doggy trivia and with a huge animal advocacy slant. Cocktails with My Cat is the partner book. I have them. Oh, I have Cocktails with My Cat right here. Cocktails with My Cat. Whoop.
Oh, yeah.
Uh, there. Cocktails with
There
My
you
Cat.
go. That's awesome.
Which is the partner book to it. Kitty trivia, very much about conservation, wildlife conservation, as well as drink recipes. And then what was really fun is one of the drinks and cocktails with my cat was called Cat Gods and Goddesses. It happens that my editor at the publishing house, Running Press, is also a big cat lover. And so I had said in the head note of that recipe, Cat Gods and Goddesses, like, oh, this is such an interesting topic. I could write a whole book about it. But we're focusing on Bastet and Sekhmet and blah, 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 blah. So Jordana sent me a note and she's like, "You said you could write a whole book about cat gods and goddesses. You want to explore that?" And I was like, "Could it be not a cocktail book?" And she's like, "Yeah." And I'm like, "Hey." So here's the result of that. In my research, I found that there are also a lot of demons, and then some mystical cats that fell into not god or goddess or demon, but they were like this deity of some sort. Like a magical would have been, but we wanted the alliteration. So that's why the title's so long, because I was like, well, it's more than gods and goddesses. There's demons and things. So it was really fun to research it. It's divided into four sections because I was like, okay, how do I tackle this subject? You know? And so I divided it into four geographical regions. So it starts with Africa and African tales around cat lore, which of course Egypt, has the most cat gods and goddesses. And then the Americas, North and South. So Native American culture, I pulled from that, in North America, but then also in South America, the jaguar is a really important symbol and animal and god in with the Native people from South America. So I have a lot of jaguar stuff in there. And then Asia, there were more demons in Asia, which was really fun to kind of delve into that. And then there's Europe, which of course, there's a lot of stories in Viking, cats were very important in Viking culture and
Unpronounceable Icelandic cat names, yes.
yes, there are some very crazy ones.
Hmm.
And so, and then I don't have Australia and South Pacific so much because they really didn't have cats native to those areas. And so cats arrived when explorers and colonizers, showed up and brought cats because cats were very important on ships. They would, eat rodents and keep the grain, edible for the humans on board, etc. And so, so cats would travel with sailors, and so they arrived, a little bit later into that part of the world. So that's the book.
No,
And then
I was gonna ask Aslan. You put Aslan in there, which
I did.
like really tickled me because I was like, oh, Chronicles of Narnia. Yeah,
I mean, so that's my favorite book series from when I was a kid. I
I
I
didn't
read
know
the
that.
whole book series. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm way into fantasy. I'm huge into fantasy stuff, fantasy literature. And yeah, that was my Chronicles of Narnia. I read them when I was like 8 or something. Like I was obsessed. I was a big reader as a kid. So I had to have Aslan in there. I mean,
Good. Yeah. It was a little nod like, oh, okay, I knew at least one. Good. Well, and of course, the ones like the Greek, I think is Artemis was the one
yeah,
that,
yeah,
so
yeah.
yeah,
Uh-huh,
yeah.
uh-huh.
I did not know any of the ones from Africa, but
And they're
yeah.
so interesting too.
Hmm. The one
Well,
you
it
said
was
was Bastet, right?
Bastet and Sekhmet, the
It
sisters.
it kind of reminded me of like an African Dionysus, that like wild energy, the like yeah,
Very,
no. Yeah, as I was looking through it, I was like, I could see it's,
yeah.
kind of the same tale retold in another place.
Totally. Well, and that's the thing is like with these cat gods and goddesses, especially those ones, the Roman and the Greek and that part of the world, the Egyptian, that basically as the cultures were being taken over by other cultures like the Egyptians and the Greeks and the Romans, you see a lot of the same gods and and you would know more. You're a Johnny. You could teach me about this. I
Yes.
only learned these things as I was researching my book. But but the same kind of god or goddess would be sort of reincarnated in each new culture as a
As
new
the
name.
Romans were out conquering the lands, yes.
Exactly, exactly. And so that was actually a challenge for me, like writing this book is like, okay, so this is basically the same cat deity or the same goddess who has cat-like qualities or is sometimes depicted with a cat head or related to cats, but call different things in different cultures. And like, how do I present this? How do I write about that without just being redundant? Like, oh, because so many of these cat goddesses, especially, it's like a goddess of war and fertility because cats fight and they have a lot of babies. It's like, okay, how many times I can't say that about every freaking god in this book because it's very much related across cultures, war and fertility. And I was like, okay, how do I present this so it doesn't sound like I'm just saying the same thing over and over and over, you know? Um, that was challenging. And it was also really hard because there aren't many books like this is the only book really like about cat gods, goddesses, deities, and demons. I was searching libraries. I love libraries. I write in the library most of the time. And so I was searching libraries. I was searching like Amazon. I was searching like mythical bookstores looking for books about cat gods. And I couldn't find hardly anything out there. I'd find articles that kind of pull from this scholar wrote about this in their paper, and I'd be kind of pulling through university papers and trying to find information was really hard
Yeah.
you know?
There hasn't been
So,
the cat chronicler till now, so.
yeah, I am. So it was hard, but it was fun. Oh my God. And one thing when I was researching, there was this whole like really interesting kind of almost like I got suddenly a bunch of information about this like cat. And I was going through this whole thing. I'm like, oh my God, I'm making notes and, circling back. And I realized it's some kind of stupid freaking video game. I was like, oh my God, I got sucked into some like world of cat mythology that's not real. And I was like, and I had to
Yes.
back out of there.
Someone's World of Warcraft characters.
It was something like that. And I was like, oh my gosh, I got wasted days on that. So,
That's awesome. So I interrupted earlier. You were about to show me something. I think it's the
oh,
cards that go with it too. Yeah.
so the
So
publisher said, we think this would also make a really great set of oracle cards. So the publisher thought these would be really fun to include. So Hachette is the big publisher, and then they have different like imprints. And so these two are under Running Press Mystic. And so they do all these kind of like witchy books and fairy books and all these kind of things. And so that's why the oracle cards came about. And they're really beautiful. The illustrator is Lucy Rose, this really talented British illustrator. So the oracle cards have a little booklet which has each of the cards in there. Whoops. So the way to use the oracle cards is to just kind of like shuffle them. Hold on, this is a new box. It's in plastic. I have to open it up. Um, there, because here's the cards. So they're so beautiful. So that this is what the back of them looks like. And then they're all color coded by geographic region. These are Africa and the Americas, Asia, and Europe.
that's
And
cool.
so yeah, they're so beautiful. I mean, honestly, I think they should be like postcards or I want her to make merchandising with this because they're so, so, so pretty.
Oh,
Anyway,
shirts. I would totally get a shirt with that.
yeah, 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 shirts. Yeah, I don't know if they're right. I have to get her permission for anything like that and pay her, obviously for royalties for whatever. I don't know how that works. But anyway, so when you're using it, because people are like, how do you use them? I don't know how to do tarot, and they're not tarot cards. I don't know enough about tarot to do that, but basically oracle cards are like what you call angel cards. So you just get them, you move them around, you get your energy all over them because if someone else holds your cards, their energy gets on the cards, and that's not a bad thing. It's just that when you get them back, you want to sort of like coat them with your energy, if you will, like a chicken cutlet and the breadcrumbs, you just want to get your energy all over there. And then you can say, just like, okay, is there a message for me? Just be something really general, or you can have a specific message in mind, a specific question in mind. And so then you just pull one. So for our little chat here, I'm going to pull one about
Sure.
what is a message about our little chat from the cat gods? And we got Artemis. Funny, you said
The one I
Artemis
was, yeah.
earlier. Isn't that strange?
There you
So
go.
magical, Andrew. Okay, so now I'm gonna find Artemis. Okay, that's on page 88. So I'm using a little guidebook. So this isn't the big book. This is the guidebook that comes with the cards. So Artemis is on 83. So let's find her. And this is short. Don't worry, it's not too long. And so this is about our little chat, and then we can like see what we think about this. Oh, this is so appropriate. Look what it says. New beginning. And we've just
Hey,
reconnected.
how about
So
that?
that's so cool. So Artemis, new beginning. Breathe life into the blossoming sensuality of your creativity. Pounce upon the opportunity for a new love or a burgeoning project. pulling at your heart, like your podcast
Yeah.
and my other writing, all my mythological writing, and our friendship being
Yay.
reblossomed. And then it says Artemis is considered the Greek equivalent to the Egyptian Bastet and Roman Diana, often called the mistress of animals. Dancing through forests, mountains, and waterways with her entourage of nymphs and naiads, she sometimes took cat form herself. Her cult followers associate her with lascivious love affairs and fertility. Which is funny because neither of us have kids, but whatever.
Yes.
As both a protector of babies and a patron of hunters, she was associated with the circle of life and death. Her temple, whose ruins are in modern-day Turkey, was once one of the seven wonders of the world.
That was actually very fitting.
Wasn't that crazy?
That was great.
Yeah. So
Well,
that's how you
cool.
use Oracle cards. So I'll send you these.
Oh, thank you.
Of
I'll
course.
have to get your energy off of them, but that'll be fine.
No, you got to rub your get my breadcrumbs off of there. Coat them with your.
Uh, well, so that is, I mean, that is cool. That one of the things I had hoped to talk about, especially with the festival, one of the things that stood out to me was how much money it has actually raised for animal humane societies. And just to see you doing all this work, going in this new direction, that's super fun.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm trying to live more truthfully to
Mhm.
who I, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? It's not that I was lying with the cocktail stuff. When I was into it, I was really into it. But, hopefully in life we evolve and, kind of have different versions of ourselves as we move through life. Now that I'm in my 50s, I'm kind of coming back around to the essence of who I was in the very beginning, which is
Mhm.
artist and a creator and a storyteller and an animal lover. And, I really want to do more around that. Alcohol is very great. I'm very grateful for my journey through the world of alcohol. It's given me a lot. I've made a career. I've had amazing opportunities, met lots of wonderful people over the years who've, some of whom have remained friends. And, you know, it's it's been a true gift, but the substance of alcohol is quite toxic.
Mhm.
And it's, a crutch that even I struggle with sometimes, like it's too easy to be like, oh my God, this was such a stressful day. What about that mezcal I have? I'm going to drink some of that now because I need to calm down, and it's still a crutch for me. It's something that I think about a lot. Like, should I be getting rid of all the bottles in my garage? Like it's unhealthy
Putting
for
them
me.
in the garage wasn't for enough. Yeah.
Exactly. So, it's a question that I think everyone needs to ask themselves if they use alcohol as a calmant or whatever. But I would like to still have a nice glass of wine in moderation sometimes, in my world, in my life. I enjoy that, so we'll see.
Yeah.
But I
No.
love that my next project, by the way, I don't know if I told you,
Ooh. No, no, no. Tell.
just signed the contract. So from these guys, my publisher also has an imprint that does children's books. So back to the chat about Narnia and Aslan and being inspired by books as children. I'm so thrilled that I get to write a children's book, which is like the kid version of this. We're not saying cat gods because that seems a little too much for kids. So it's more like magical cats. And so I'm going to be writing 18 to 20 short stories all to do with mystical, magical cats for kids. So that's
Cool.
like really making my heart happy.
Yeah. No, that's awesome.
Yeah, it's really cool.
And that just happened, though. No,
Yeah,
no release
really.
dates in mind or anything like that, I'm guessing.
Huh? Not what?
No release dates or is that's
Oh,
all pretty far out, I'm guessing.
yeah, it'll come out in 2026 is what I
Cool.
have to turn it in by August, and I'm so busy with my festival and my James Beard projects that
Mm.
I don't know how the hell I'm going to get it all written by August, but I will. And
Sure.
then it'll come out in 2026. Next spring it's supposed to come out. So
Yeah. Well, I guess it is easier to deal with that late nights with cat writing than late nights with booze writing. Yeah.
no hangover.
Mm. Well, hey, because I do want to talk a little bit about it. When is the next festival and,
Oh,
yeah, all that. Like what are you
oh,
doing and what's exciting and yeah.
yeah. Well, so the festival itself is May 30th
Mm.
through that's Chuckle Wars, through June 1st. And June 1st, we're doing a chef and shaker cocktail pairing brunch, and then also having my Cat Gods book party that evening at As Above, So Below, a local distillery that you'll next time you come to town, even if you're not drinking alcohol, got to poke your head in there. It's really cool.
Okay.
Uh, and then I don't know if I told you that Stephanie Cameron from Edible Magazine and we teamed up and launched New Mexico Cocktail Week together. And so my festival is still the festival weekend, and that kicks off a whole week of events that are statewide. And so we started this 3 years ago, and we have bars and restaurants and distilleries all around New Mexico who are so they just like pay like a restaurant week, they pay a registration
Hmm.
fee. Then we put out a guide, and we have a website. I'll send you that link too.
Sure.
Um,
Yeah.
they and so they each do their own events, and so we have everything from pairing dinners to classes to tastings to just special featured cocktails. And so the Cocktails and Culture Festival, it's kind of like the first weekend, and then it kicks off a whole week of fun things going on. And then Stephanie Edible Magazine will do a pool party on the last day in Albuquerque. So
Oh, cool. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you got enough of people in Albuquerque and Taos, I'm guessing. You can actually, that was Santa Fe. I mean, yeah, what is there besides that? Those
well,
three.
we have Las Vegas, New Mexico. So
That's true. That's true.
The Skillet did an amazing pairing dinner last year in Las
Hmm.
Vegas that I went to, and I really enjoyed that. And then, of course, there's Little Toad Creek down in Silver City and Las Cruces.
Hmm.
So we
True.
have them doing stuff down there. So it's like we really have people from north to south, like maybe there's not a ton of, other places in the smaller cities and different outside of Santa Fe and Albuquerque, but there are some. So it's really exciting.
Nice. Yeah. May 30th, Taco Bowlers. Ooh, that's exciting. That's coming up soon. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I didn't tell you before this. So I'm actually going to mess up the order that I'm recording and put you earlier, just so this comes out before. Yeah.
Thank you.
So you should come out not this upcoming Tuesday, but the following one. So I
Oh,
think I think
amazing.
that I have the date a little. Well, I can always look it up later. Yeah.
Awesome.
So.
Well, Taco Wars is sold out, but
Oh, good.
yeah,
Yeah.
but we do have tickets left for Mind Body Spirits Yoga, which also includes a special spirits tasting afterwards. We have a ticket, and that's on May 31st. We have tickets still available for the Chef and Shaker Pisco Cocktail Brunch, which is on Sunday, June 1st at noon. And then my party is free. My book party is free. It's at the Cat Gods, Goddesses, Deities, and Demons. And the bar team at As Above, So Below are also doing kitty cocktails. So to come to the party is free, but there is a VIP ticket that includes the book, the Oracle cards deck, and a cocktail. And if they want to do a $50 VIP ticket, but otherwise they can just come for free.
Which you want to do the VIP ticket. No. Yeah.
You
No.
get the full experience.
Yeah. No, and I will say too, because I've over the last year been a really big Kindle like reader fan. And so your book was great digital, but I would recommend anyone who wants to get it. I think you really want the physical, like you want the physical book. You want to see those like drawings that I'm sure, you know, I think it's something we talked about before we started talking, but it's one of the things I should have gotten the physical book.
Well, I'll
So.
send you one, don't worry.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, if you're listening, I'm talking for the listener here.
Yeah. People who are listening, and the cards. I think the cards are so much fun because, like, you don't have to be into like woo-woo stuff to enjoy the cards. It's just kind of like what we did now. Like, what's a card for our talk? And it was just crazy. Artemis, that who you had mentioned, and then New Beginnings with us reconnecting after a while is so like amazing. So it's just weird how like people who read horoscopes would enjoy oracle cards, and it's just sort of in that vein. So.
Sure.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, Natalie, I want to respect your time. I really appreciate you making some time to talk to me today. Is there anything exciting you've got after Taco Wars besides that book? Anything coming up we should look out for? Or?
Well, I get to go, well, I'm going to be working at the James Beard Awards this year, so that'll be exciting.
Oh, tell me about that. Yeah.
Yeah, so I've been working on it with the James Beard Foundation for 4 years now. It's my part-time gig, which I really enjoy. And so I work on the Taste America. I work on two things. I work on the Taste America program, which is a series, a national dinner series, and I oversee like the culinary aspect of with the chef and the local event producer in each of the 20 cities. So I get to meet all those chefs. I don't go to all the dinners, but I do it through Zoom. So I kind of guide them on their journey of like planning their dinner and getting that going. And then I also produce the Santa Fe dinner. So I'll be doing that again in November. So that's really fun because I meet all these amazing chefs and event producers all over the country every year. And then this year is the first time I'm working on the awards. So my actual role is not the glamorous, not the most glamorous role. I'm kind of like the coordinator of like the travel, like the on the ground travel coordinator for like the VIPs of the awards. But it's also cool because I get to meet all those people.
You're in
So
the building. Yeah.
yeah. And
Yeah.
I get to go to the awards and I get to like see
Mhm.
all the stuff happening. So I'm super excited about that. And then I am helping to produce our a big tasting that we're doing in Los Angeles for the James Beard Foundation Taste America kickoff in July. So I will be going out for that and I'm very involved in that event, which is super fun. And then don't think I told you my new project, which is again
Sure.
my new life, is I'm planning a culinary and culture retreat in Spain, which is going to
I
be in
did
October.
see that on your website. Yeah, tell us about that. That's super
Yeah.
cool.
So, I've planned, as you know, I've planned like multi-day trips for like alcohol company, for like the trips I did for those like bartender trips all over the country with the Jack Daniels people, which was really fun. And I love doing that kind of stuff. And so, again, in the vein of event production and travel and like balance and all the things that I'm really passionate about in Spain, where I used to live. So I've rented this beautiful farmhouse, which is between Barcelona and Girona. That area is Catalunya or Catalonia. It's the Tuscany of Spain. It is wine country of Spain. It is a culinary destination. It's full of Roman ruins
Mhm.
and beautiful culture. And so the retreat is focusing on, so every day we'll start with some yoga. I have a yoga teacher there who'll be teaching a little yoga just to kind of start the day like that, do some journaling. We'll have, a breakfast buffet. And then each afternoon, we're doing a different kind of excursion experience. We're going to be having two cooking classes. Um, we're going to visit Girona and see the medieval what you call it, Old Town area,
Mhm.
which is stunning and interesting. Part of Game of Thrones was filmed there. So we'll do a tour of that. We're gonna go to Cadaqués, which is one of the most picturesque villages in Europe. It's on like the top 20 of Europe. It's always ranked there. We're gonna go to the Dali Museum in Figueras because Dali is from Figueras. And honestly, before going to the museum myself, I wasn't a Dali fan. I didn't know much about him. I just knew like the melting clocks that you'd see in like
Mhm.
dorm rooms. I didn't really know what it was all about. But that museum is mind blowing. And he just died in the 1980s. Like I didn't even realize he had, been alive so recently. And he was so fascinating. And he bought this theater and turned it into this crazy museum. And it's very like it's pre-Meow Wolf, like Meow Wolf, we know what Meow Wolf is.
Yeah.
But the Dali Museum is like a much smaller version, but kind of like that type of like craziness. Um, and then we're going to go visit a kava producer. So it's kind of like there's a little tourism involved. There's, learning about local cuisine. There's tasting the local wine and kava. There's a little balance with the yoga. It's the kind of trip I like to go on. And so I thought there are other people like me out there who would enjoy this kind of, culinary and culture experience for 5 days in the Costa Brava. So
Yeah, that's awesome. How many spots do you have, or do you still have some spots left?
only 8 spots total available.
Mm.
There's 3 are already taken, so I have 5 left. And
Yeah.
male female. The farmhouse, so if you're a couple coming, you can have your own room with your own bathroom. We have a few of
Mm.
those. And then other people that are coming on their own. I love solo travel. I've gone on a few yoga retreats now as a solo traveler, and shared rooms. And so we have a couple rooms that have single beds where if you're coming on your own, people can share a room. So, which makes it a little bit more economical too.
Yeah. No, that's cool.
So, yeah,
Um, yeah, yeah. Well, hey, it was a real pleasure to talk to you today. It's been forever.
I
So,
know. We need to talk
yeah,
more often, and it doesn't
I
have to
know.
be.
I'm very, very bad at keeping in touch with people, which is part of the reason I did this, so I can actually make people talk to me for an hour over the internet.
I'm sure you don't have to twist anyone's arm. Thank you for
No,
having me on, Andrew. It was
well,
great
of
to connect
course.
with you. Thanks for letting me talk about, my journey through the mixology world and my way out of it. I appreciate that.
Awesome. Well, I'm going to say goodbye.
Bye.
Thank you for taking the time to listen today. If you enjoyed this, please leave a review, like, share. The more people that we can reach, the more people we can help, and the more people we can bring this message to, a message of hope and possibilities in the service industry. Everyone who listens, thank you. You are my people. Keep rocking on and have a great service. And please come back and listen again. We send out new episodes every Tuesday and Thursday. How about that? All right, see you soon.